how much light and lightness and laughter there is included in your memories of growing up. How do you think that shaped not only you as a writer, but you as a cook?
Even when you look at something as devastating as our legacy of slavery, Aggie worked for people as an enslaved woman. My grandmother Christine worked for people as a domestic worker. And you had to find moments of joy. I mean, I think that cooking and providing food for people was a form of love, and that was a joy. But I think for Black people, for Black women, the kitchen has always been a place of joy, even though it is a place of toil. It's where we got our hair done. It's where you heard the gossip. It's where music was played and you danced. The light always shone a particular way in my grandmother's kitchen, and so there was lots and lots of joy in the cooking of food.
You also talk about passing on that kind of joy, that kind of tradition to your own kids. And I wondered how strong of an influence your children were to your decision to write this book. Obviously, you're sharing it with the wider public, which I'm grateful for. But what part did the thought of your children have in this?
I hope they see this book as a gift. There's so much about our history that they don't know. There's a part of me as an educator, as an intellectual person, as a feminist who says, well, no, you don't have to cook if you don't want to. But when my daughters said that they didn't want to cook those large meals, I have to admit that even as a feminist, it kind of hurt my feelings. So I hope that they'll read this book and they'll have sort of a change of heart, that they want to carry on some of these traditions. And I think it's important for them to know about their Black Appalachian foodways. Like me, they sort of take that part of their history for granted. So I hope that they embrace all of these things that were and build a foundation for their own future with their children. And I'll be there. I envision myself already as the future kitchen ghost telling them not too much salt, a little bit more sage, the ways in which I feel like my grandmother and the other kitchen ghosts guide me.
Krista Wilkinson's book is Praise Song for the Kitchen Ghosts, Stories and Recipes from 5 Generations of Black Country Cooks. Krista Wilkinson, thank you.
Thank you.
And you're listening to Here and Now.
Consistency is the key to make a new habit stick. Morning Edition from NPR News makes it easy to stay informed. Listen every weekday.
Morning Edition comes your way weekday mornings from 5 to 9 on Radio IQ.
Support for Radio IQ comes from Gastroenterology Consultants of Southwest Virginia and the Endoscopy Center of Southwest Virginia, celebrating the Endoscopy Center's 19 years of community health care, welcoming Dr. Farhad Sahibjam, colonoscopyroanoke.com. And by Wilderness Adventure at Eagle Landing, committed to building confidence, leadership, and teamwork through adventure and challenge. Currently registering for camps beginning in June. wilderness-adventure.com.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston, where the program is produced, and your NPR station. From MathWorks, creators of MATLAB and Simulink software for technical computing and model-based design. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com. And BetterHelp, committed to helping clients with issues ranging from relationship challenges and goal setting to grief and depression. Learn more at betterhelp.com/public.
It's Here and Now. In the Mideast conflict, we have focused a lot, understandably, on Gaza. But Hezbollah has also been firing missiles from Lebanon into northern Israel. Hezbollah says it is in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza, and for its part, Israel is firing back into Lebanon. And now, hundreds of thousands of civilians on both sides have been displaced. NPR's Jane Araf went to the Lebanese coastal city of Tyre to visit an arts program designed especially for children who have fled their homes.
We're on the kind of school bus you just don't see much anymore. It's American, at least half a century old, with padded metal seats. It used to be yellow, but now it's a riot of color, with iconic actors, comedians, and singers painted on the outside. We're stopping at 2 schools, but most of the kids piling onto the bus don't attend classes there. They and their families are living in empty classrooms since they were displaced last October from villages along the border with Israel. For a lot of them, this is the highlight of their week.
They're very excited. They're actually jumping up and down in front of the bus and clapping their hands.
The man telling them to get on board is Kasim Istanbuli, and this project is part of the organization he founded, Tiro Association for the Arts.
And we see at the beginning when they come, they have a lot of stress and nervous, and especially when they start to speak about themselves, you see them, when they remember the war.
The theater we're going to is just across town, but as the driver, Hussam Khattab, pulls on the aging metal gear shift to take the route along the sea, most of the kids lean out as if they're on a tour bus. Some of them sing along to old favorites. A few minutes later, we arrive at a historic cinema that the Arts Association has renovated. The little kids head upstairs, and the teenagers file into the theater for drama class.
We will start drawing for children up in the cafe, and then we'll start theater here. And then after photography.
On the second floor, next to a room with old movie posters, instructors are handing out paper plates and crayons for the younger kids to cut into the shape of baskets and draw flowers. A lot of the children tell us they aren't in school because most of the lessons are sent by WhatsApp messages or email, and they don't have access to internet. The aid group Save the Children says between the pandemic, the Lebanese financial crisis, and the war in Gaza, only 3% of children in Lebanon are able to read at their grade level. Rawan, one of the displaced young people, is 18. She doesn't want to use her last name because she says her mother would get mad if she did. She's finished high school and she plans to be a teacher. Suspended between adulthood and a disrupted childhood, Rawan is incredulous when I ask who's responsible for the war in Gaza. America is the one that supports Israel under the table, my dear, she says. In the theater, Istanbuli is doing a lightning round of questions with the teenagers. What's your favorite color? Your favorite food? The kids shout out answers. When he gets to, when was the last time you were happy in your life? There's mostly silence. One boy says, nothing. Then they crank up the music, and everyone gets up on the stage to dance. Rawan, covered in an elegant black abaya, takes the hands of a little girl and dances with her. Istanbuli created the foundation in 2014. In this country which has seen so little peace, he believes in the healing power of art.
Be here to get out, to come by bus, to learn drawing, photography, and storytelling, to draw. All this, they can express themselves. They can feel freedom. They can get out all the painful inside through arts.
Khattab, who drives the bus, is a photographer who came to Lebanon as a Syrian refugee. He says the worst thing about being displaced isn't being hungry or being out of school. It's the way people look at you with pity. There's no pity here. For a couple of afternoons a week, just regular kids doing regular things. Jane Araf, NPR News, Tyre, Lebanon.
To the Board of Supervisors meeting for April 23rd. I'd like to welcome Pastor Michael Wilburn and invite him to come forward to the podium. Pastor Wilburn will tell us about his church, Shenandoah Baptist Church, and then lead us in prayer. When Pastor Wilburn is ready to lead us in prayer, I will invite all who desire to stand for the prayer and to remain standing to join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome, Pastor Wilburn.
Well, thank you for that kind invitation, and we're thankful to be here with you and to pray and begin. Shenandoah Baptist Church is part of this community for a little over 50 years. We're on Williamson Road, close to Hollins. I usually have to tell people that's if you know where Brewster's Ice Cream, we're just behind that. That'll help you know where we're located. But we're thankful to serve our community not only as a church, but also through the ministries of our Christian school and Christian education from early childhood to high school there at Roanoke Valley Christian Schools, as well as our camp in Fincastle, Camp Eagle there. So we're so thankful for this opportunity. It's good to be with you.
And welcome to Roanoke.
Thank you.
Since you've just moved here from Richmond.
Absolutely.
Okay. You ready to lead us in prayer?
I am.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's pray together. Father God, we begin by acknowledging that government was your idea, that there's no authority except from you, and all authorities are appointed by you. So I ask, Lord, that in this meeting, we desire our governance to be pleasing in your sight and to be helpful for citizens living under our authority. Thank you for each member of the Board of Supervisors. As Scripture teaches us, they are your ministers to us for good. So I pray that in all they do, let righteousness rejoice and wickedness fear. Let us obey as citizens to render taxes to whom taxes are due, custom to whom customs, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor, and may we submit appropriately to them. Bless them individually for their work, Lord. Protect their families. Provide for their needs. Make all that they do flourish. And through their good work, we as citizens will live a quiet and peaceable life. So, Father, may you give for this agenda tonight wisdom and discernment, discretion and patience to each leader. And may you render final outcomes that create righteousness and well-being for our community. I request this in the name of Jesus Christ, Savior and Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon. Welcome to our meeting of April 23rd, 2024. Regular meetings are held on the second and fourth Tuesday at 3 p.m. Public hearings are held at 7 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month. Deviations from this schedule will be announced. The meetings are broadcast live on RVTV Channel 3 and will be rebroadcast on Thursday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday between the hours of 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Board of Supervisors meetings can also be viewed online through Roanoke County's website at www.roanokecountyva.gov. Individuals who require assistance or special arrangements to participate in or attend Board of Supervisors meetings should contact the clerk of the board at 540-772-2005 at least 48 hours in advance. Please turn all cell phones off or please place them on silent. Item A, opening ceremonies. Roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Here.
Mrs. Hooker? Here. Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Ms. Shepherd? Here. Mr. North?
Here. Item B, request to postpone, add to, or change the order of agenda items. Are there any requests to postpone, add to, or change the order of the agenda? Fellow board members?
No, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Kaywood?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lubeck?
No changes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to item C, proclamations, resolutions, recognitions, and awards. Item 1, resolution congratulating the Northside High School boys basketball team for winning the 2024 Virginia High School League Class 3 State Championship. Ms. Hooker from the Catawba District, will you please join me at the podium?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. I think the team's sitting right there in the first 3 rows. And Coach is over there. So. All right. At this time, I'd like to have the clerk read the resolution, and Coach, if you would come on and join us up here.
Resolution congratulating the Northside High School boys basketball team for winning the Virginia High School League VHSL Class III Championship. Whereas athletic competitions are an important and integral part of the team curriculum at schools in Roanoke County, teaching cooperation, sportsmanship, teamwork, and athletic skill. And whereas on March 8, 2024, the Northside Boys High School basketball team won the Class III state championship at VCU Siegler Center in Richmond, Virginia, after defeating Lake Taylor 73-58. And whereas the Vikings completed their season with a 28-3 overall record and a 13-game winning streak to finish the season. The team won the Blue Ridge District Championship, the Region D Championship, and the State Class III Championship. The state championship game was against Lake Taylor, the #1 ranked team in all 6 classifications in Virginia. The Vikings trailed by 1 at halftime, but took the lead early in the 3rd quarter and never again trailed. The Vikings made 10 three-point shots and were led by Michael Harvey's 26 points, Cy Hardy's 17 points, and DJ Vi's 13 points. And whereas the team represented their school and community with great character, poise, and sportsmanship, they are a true asset to Roanoke County. And whereas junior Cy Hardy was named Class III State Player of the Year, and junior Michael Harvey made the Class III All-State First Team. Senior Kai Logan was named 2nd Team All-Region. Seniors DJ Vi and Nick Crawford were both named 2nd Team All-Blue Ridge District. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Roanoke County, Virginia does hereby extend its sincere congratulations to the members of the Northside High School boys basketball team. DJ Vi, Jamari Lavender, Cy Hardy, Josiah Keene, Quinn Logan, Nick Crawford, Christian Ward, Michael Harvey, Javin Gibson, Kai Logan, Jolie Green, Ryland Stump, Caden Ragland, Cam Tucker, Kavon Brown, and Braden Ragland. Be it further resolved that the Board of Supervisors extends its best wishes to the members of the team, the coaches, and the schools in their future endeavors.
Thank you. And is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Ms. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes. And at this time, do the coaches have a few words they'd like to comment on? And anyone on the team is welcome to as well.
Would you like the team to come up first, or?
Well,
Yes.
they can. Have them come on up here. We'll get a picture
I can bring
later.
them up one at a time and
That's
then
fine.
say a few words.
Yeah, sure. You do whatever you want. You got the mic.
First, our manager, Miles Linden. Braden Ragland, who is an 8th grader and a practice player for us this year, but played a really big role in that.
I look up to you.
Number 40, Ryland Stump, a freshman. Number 44, Cam Tucker, a sophomore. Number 14, Josiah Keene, a junior. Number 20, Quinn Logan, a junior.
Good job, man.
Number 22, Christian Ward, a junior. Number 24, Javin Gibson, a junior. Number 11, Jamari Lavender, a senior. Number 34, Jolie Green, a senior. Number 42, Caden Ragland, a senior. Number 32, Kai Logan, a senior and captain. Number 23, Michael Harvey, a junior. Kai, you want to go? Number 21, Nick Crawford, a senior. Number 12, Cy Hardy, a junior. And number 10, DJ Vi, a senior. I have coaches with me. Coach Kavan, how did I miss you? Kavan, a junior, number 50, Kavan Brown. Never fails on that. We got everybody now. And our coaching staff here, Jake Paysor, Jim Wolf, Tyler Cadd, and Josh Malave. I'd like to say a couple things here. First of all, our principal is over there, Mrs. Green. Our school board representative, David Linden, is there also. But Mrs. Green is wonderful to work for. She really invests in every one of these players, and I know part of the reason we're up here today is because of her. She has nothing but support for us, and support and encouragement means everything. And every one of these guys know how much she cares about each one of them there, so thank you. Just a couple comments. I won't take long. I know you got a lot of work to do. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to say a few things and to bring these guys here and get that kind of recognition. I think all that you read said it all about what these guys did. But a few things I think that we learned from this year. And we learn every year, but you got to be reminded of some of these simple things. But we learned that improvement never stops. We were a much better team at the end of the year than we were at the beginning of the year. And so I contributed to these guys having a growth mindset. They believe that people can get better rather than a fixed thing, that I'm already this great player, and they thought, hey, we can get better every day. So we learned that. We never lost sight of our goals, and I think that's very difficult to do, especially with all the different mediums of communication out there, that you can easily lose sight of that. They did not. We were good all year. We just kept getting a little bit better there. The fact that we played as a team, you're reminded of that again, how it is a team sport. We had some really fantastic individual honors, but in the end, it is the better team that keeps moving on and winning. And basketball is such a beautiful game when it's played as a team, and these guys had some fantastic support. I will share one memory besides the one at VCU. When we played at Roanoke College in the state semis against Tunstall, the Roanoke College coach came up to me afterwards and said, that was the largest crowd that's ever been in the Krieger Center. It was literally 4 and 5 deep. People hanging out, watching that. And people like to watch a team that really plays beautiful basketball, and these guys did. I think we were flexible. We learned to win different ways. We had to win a lot of different ways, including right to the very end. And then finally, the last one is that we repeated the lesson over and over again, that playing hard was our goal and having lots and lots of fun doing that. The playing hard and working hard at something doesn't mean it's not fun. That's when you can have your most fun. So I think these guys did all these things, and I just wanted to share that. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask if any board members have any comments. Mr.
Yeah. No, you go ahead.
I'm going to come up here to the mic and make sure my voice is projected. But I just want every one of these young men to know we are incredibly proud of every one of you. And you represent Roanoke County well. And so the whole idea of being on a winning team is pretty spectacular, but twice. And we're proud of you. You've got great leadership in Ms. Green and Mr. Linden, and we are really grateful for them and the leadership that they bring to Roanoke County Schools. And you all just kind of put the proof in the pudding on the court, and we applaud you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so who are the captains? Raise your hand, who are the captains?
Had 3 of them.
Okay, great. All right. So you're halftime, you're down 1. What do y'all do at halftime? Tell me what y'all did to to bring it on home the second half?
I mean, we were just, we were in there, and we knew it was our game, and we knew we had to come out strong in the second half. Like, we played good first half, but we knew we were really going to have to lock in and defense and offense to win the game. So we were just talking to everybody about that and make sure everybody got their head up.
So, Lake Taylor, right? That's the team? Yes. Yeah. So, what was the scouting report on them?
They were big.
2 6'8" guys, about a 6'4" guy, much bigger, but we felt like we had things we could definitely do to them too.
Great,
Absolutely.
Great. I always like to hear from the captains. Thank y'all so much. Wonderful championship back to back.
Mr. Mahoney.
I want to thank you. As Ms. Hooker said, you represent the county, but I think more importantly for you guys, you represent your school and you represent your families. And I know it takes a heck of a lot of hard work to be successful, and obviously you guys prove what hard work can do. So thank you, congratulations, and wish you all luck in your future. And it sounds like, I thought I heard a whole lot of underclassmen on this team.
It's a mixture. We're losing some really great ones that won't be replaced, but we'll get a new identity to us, and we'll move forward on that. But you don't replace really great guys like that. So,
congratulations.
Yeah.
Tammy?
I just want to congratulate all of you. Having a son that played sports, when you actually win a championship like this, you all have created a bond that will never be broken. And
Amen.
25 years from now, you will still be remembering each other or talking about each other. No matter where you are, how far across the state you are, you'll always be family. But congratulations, we are really proud of you.
thank you. Thank you so much for those very nice comments. And
I just want to make a few comments. I've never been among so many student athletes, young men like you all are, and looked up to you because there's a lot of hype there. Either that or I've shrunk as I've gotten older. But yeah, absolutely. You're going to remember this for years to come. And some of you all will probably end up coaching some type of sport one day, maybe basketball, maybe coaching high school or college. You never know, and I wish you the best. But one thing for sure, I know back in 2019, I got a call. Northside won. They're on the way home, and we had a police escort for them, I think, when they got to the county line on 81 and all the way to the high school. And that's deserving anytime you do win. So that's standing. Just give one of us a call. And
well, we got home at about 3 in the morning. So there was no reason.
That was a little early. I mean, late, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever the recipe is, and you don't answer what the recipe is, but whatever it is,
These guys.
It's working. Just keep on building on it, and hope to have you back here next year or sometime near in the future.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you
And
very much.
and you assistant coaches too, congratulations. We want to get a picture now.
Okay, let's get a picture.
Right here, tallest in the back.
Tallest in the back.
Big hair in the back.
Very light.
They are.
Lyndon, stand up.
Tough.
There we go. Oh, are we supposed to be in this picture?
I don't think so.
I don't think they're going to get us.
That little camera better get everybody. You have to come back again in 2 weeks.
Thank you all.
You're welcome very much. Thank you. Congratulations.
Nobody
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to have
Congratulations.
a chow session now.
Congratulations.
was very happy to see Northside. I thought we had sort of avoided Glenver, but then Martha jumped in.
What can I say?
Thank you very much, and congratulations to Northside. Item D, new business. Item number 1, resolution approving the FY 24-25 budget for the Roanoke Valley Resource Authority. Chair welcomes John Lanford, CEO of RVRA, and welcome to your first briefing.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. Very special to get to watch that as well. To your point, Ms. Shepherd, those life lessons in that locker room at halftime will go on with those young men forever, and that's a tremendous experience. As we get to work together over the years, you'll find out that I'm a huge sports fan, and those are things that will shape those young men's lives forever. And looking probably at some future leaders in the community that come from that. So it was great to be here for that. I'm humbled and privileged to be here with you all and to have the opportunity that I have. I've had the privilege to work with some of you over the years. I have about 25 years in local government and just finishing up 5 months at the Resource Authority. And it's been a good 5 months, and look forward to many years to come. Have with me today Jeremy Garrett, our Director of Technical Operations, and Brad Brewer, our Finance Director at the Resource Authority. One of the things I'd like to do at the very beginning is offer a tour of the landfill for any members that may be interested. Not long after I was here, we hosted Vinton Town Council and their staff. I think everybody had a good time at the landfill. We have some exciting things going on at the landfill currently, and I'll touch on those very briefly and then very quickly run through budget and then be happy to answer any questions that you may have. We just completed construction of Cell 7. It provides 5 years of airspace at the Smith Cap facility, and a week ago yesterday began placing the first fluff layer of solid waste in the new cell there. We also have, as you may have seen in the newspaper article, a very exciting project that's once the construction of the cell completed really ramped up, and that's the conversion of the methane gas to RNG, and we're excited about a partnership that we have with Archaea for that project. It'll have some tremendous benefit to the community and also to the Resource Authority monetarily going forward. I'd like to recognize Jeremy Garrett. He really shepherded that project forward, negotiated the terms of it, and has seen it to the construction point. So again, happy to be here. Those are some things that are currently ongoing. One of the things that we're also looking to do is begin a master planning effort. I mentioned Cell 7. Originally, there were 10 cells permitted in the Part B area. That's been consolidated. 8 and 9 remain to be developed, and then we need to look at how we'll remain operational there and develop future cells for years to come. It's a tremendous asset for the region. And so we'll begin the master planning effort to look at that and be engaging with you all as well. One of the other things I would like to do is, before I touch highly on the budget, is thank you all for the partnership that we have between the county and the Resource Authority. Your staff here is a tremendous benefit to us. Finance, IT, administration, and assisting us as fiscal agents. So thank you all very much for the assistance that you give us. I believe in your package you have a copy of the budget, and you also have a cover memo that outlines it at a very high level. Our fiscal 24 budget is $15.9 million. Our proposed fiscal 25 budget is $16.7 million, specifically a $835,797 increase between fiscal years, approximately 5.2%. Included in that proposed budget is an increase to the municipal rates that would increase by $1.50 per ton, taking them from $55 per ton to $56.50. There's also a commercial rate increase proposed that would increase by $1.75 per ton, going from $65.75 to $67.50 per ton. Just for context, on the municipal side, each dollar increase per ton generates approximately $600 in new revenue. $1.50 increases our revenues on the municipal customer side by $164,400. The physical impact to Roanoke County for that amount is $63,256. The remainder is made up of the three other members, Vinton, Salem, and Roanoke City. The RVRA board has set a public hearing for its June meeting to adopt rates and budget, and we would respectfully ask that board supervisors approve the budget as submitted. Be happy to answer any questions that you all may have. One of the things that you'll notice as you look through the board, if you've the budget, if you've had a chance, the revenues this year are supporting our operations. There are equipment, there's equipment replacement schedule included in the packet, and there's also a capital improvement plan included in the packet that identifies those needs, but none are currently funded. And that was what we had to make those cuts to produce a balanced budget this year. One of the interesting things that we'll present to our board tomorrow and new to the authority is a lease option for some of the equipment, simply because of the cost, upfront capital cost to purchase some of the equipment that we utilize and the expense of that equipment. We're considering transition to a lease arrangement, and we'll have that conversation with the Resource Authority Board tomorrow. Again, happy to answer any questions that you may have, and a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, John. Do any board members have questions or comments?
Yes, sir. John, with respect to the increase in the commercial rates, I don't know enough about the business. Could commercial users go someplace else? Or are we pretty competitive with the rate structure that you're proposing?
Yeah, I believe our rate structure is competitive, and then I also believe when you factor in the transportation costs associated with our rates, we're very competitive. So we don't anticipate losing any customers because of that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Hooker.
I know that there was, you discussed some new cell, I believe, opening, and that there are still 8 and 9, and then you would have to start looking at other parcels on the land for additional cells, is the way I understand what you were explaining. But the big picture is we've got plenty of room for many years to come.
Yes, ma'am. It's a matter of how we go about developing it.
And the estimated years of use.
In the current Part B area, which is all I'm confident in stating now, is 21 years approximately, based off of some modeling we've done. So that's cell 7, 8, 9. And until we complete the master planning process, I'm hesitant to really give a number, because a lot of things have changed, especially with regard to environmental concerns and impacts to waters of the U.S. and whatnot on the site, as opposed to when it was first permitted.
So 21 years for, as we are right now. There's projection that there could be many more, but maybe not as many as we had originally been told because of new regulation.
Potentially, yes, ma'am.
Gotcha. And regarding that tour, I really do want to take you up, and I'm hoping that some of my fellow board members would want to come with me. It's actually quite fascinating, and I would love to have a group go.
Yeah, it really is. And just one other comment to that. I had been maybe a week at the authority and was visiting the landfill, and they had just installed a nice new picnic table outside. I asked them why that was there, and there's a garden club that comes up, and they meet from time to time at the authority, and they wanted to have a place outside to eat lunch after their meeting.
So they go to the landfill.
Yeah, it really is it's a testament to the staff at the facility of how well it's maintained.
It is. Thank you.
Mr. Ryder.
Yeah. John, thank you. Welcome aboard, 5 months. I noticed your debt load is $23,500,000. How do you feel about that? Is there a chance to accelerate that? Are you going to add to it? Yeah, so you got your financial guy back there. Is that?
So it's a difficult, until we go through the master planning process, it's difficult to say until we understand what those capital costs are coming forward. I think given the inflation in construction, where costs are coming in. We've got 5 years. Historically, we've set aside a certain amount of money to be able to cash fund new site development. There's the likelihood that if we continue at that same rate of setting aside dollars, we won't have sufficient cash on hand. So we may be looking at a combination of cash and debt issuance to be able to build future sales. That's speculation on my part at this moment, but I think that's the reality if you look at where you are with inflation in construction.
Right. So in my day job is in construction, and we went through capital outlay for equipment, but now the industry turned since the recession. We do a lot of leasing also, so I think that's a good alternative to tying up capital or having to go borrow for your equipment. So good idea on that.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, John, just a couple of comments. I noticed that tipping fee did go up, and it looked like just on the municipal waste in Roanoke County, just that part, of course, it increased to $1.50, which is about 2.73%, probably under inflation's rate, which is somewhere over 3. My question concerns one that I asked Ms. Owens the other day about the methane gas, which could bring in $800,000 annually to $1.2 million, which should start in the third quarter of 2025, which is a piece of bright news because it'll give you a revenue stream that you don't have today. How is that going to be used? Are you going to put most of it on the debt, justify it for future capital, or are you going to stabilize tipping fees with that revenue stream? How do you envision that?
Well, I believe we haven't had that conversation at the board level with at the authority, but to put into context, when we developed our budget initially, in order to fully fund the capital improvement plan and the equipment replacement, we were looking at $80+ tipping fee, right? And we realized that's not realistic, right? So we went through the process and brought it back down.
Right.
Yeah, so that 800 to 1.2 million is equivalent to, if you take those numbers that I used previously, I think that's equivalent to somewhere between a $7 and $9 approximate increase. It generates the same revenue as a $5 to $7 or $7 to $9 increase in the tipping fees, but still leaves a delta that's not funded, that are some needs there. So it will more than likely go into future site development and or equipment replacement to be able to bring the authority back to the position it needs to be in, and it'll help offset some needed or some future rate increases.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion to approve the resolution approving the fiscal year 24-25 budget for the Roanoke Valley Resource Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? If not, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Ms. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Thank you all
John.
very much.
Item 2, resolution approving the FY 24-25 budget for the Roanoke Regional Airport Commission. Chair welcomes Mike Stewart, Executive Director of Roanoke Regional Airport. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the supervisors. Joined today by David Jevons, our Director of Finance, in case you get any really technical questions you want to ask. And then if you get really tough, I brought our lawyer along there, my dear General Counsel. So it's a pleasure that I'm back with you again, and hopefully you've had a chance to review the budget. We, for 2024-25 operating budget, as well as the capital expenditures over $100,000 as required by Virginia statute. The commission approved the budgets on March the 26th at their meeting. We've already been before the city of Salem and be going before the city of Roanoke week after next, but we appreciate all the approvals. No deficit is anticipated in either the O&M budget or the capital expenditures. Therefore, no additional appropriations are being requested today. I know that's music to your ears, and we like to keep it that way. As you go through it, you'll notice that our O&M budget, the revenues of $13.8 million projected. are down about 17% from fiscal year '24. That's primarily due to the expiration of the federal pandemic relief grant funds that we've been getting through the CARES Act, CRISA, and ARPA. And that's somewhat been offset by increases in terminal-related revenues. Our parking, our rental cars, as an example, are very strong and continue to get stronger. And we are always a little bit conservative when it comes to projecting revenues. I'd rather miss low than miss high. So our expenditures are up $12.8 million. That's up 9% from fiscal year '24. And that's primarily due to personnel expenses, COLA, and insurance costs. Our projected net, slightly less than $1 million. We'd always like to have a little more than that, but considering this is the first year in about 4 years that we haven't had the pandemic relief, we're really pleased to be able to come in with a budget that is operating in the black and projected to stay that way. And as a kind of a side note, that also allows us to continue to hold our airline rates and charges flat, which means the airlines can continue to serve the valley and not have their net margins impacted, which is always a good thing when you're trying to get them to bring more service in. Our capital projects, I'll kind of skim through those as you've seen. The first one is basically reconstruction of one of our taxiways, or a portion of one of our taxiways. Taxiway Bravo runs parallel to runway 624. It's the primary taxiway, primary runway for the airport. This will take care of the eastern end of that, and it's actually a mill and overlay of a surface that is many years old. And if you're a private pilot or you're sitting close to a window coming in sometime, you can kind of look out the window as you come in from the east, and you'll see that the pavement looks a little bit like a checkerboard. It's been sealed and fixed a lot of times, so it's time to get that one redone. The next one on the list is actually a design contract, which is rehabilitation for runway 624 itself. That runway, again, it's very old pavement. It's reached end of life. Although the master plan would have us do some other things with the runway, we've got to keep it operational in the meantime. So that's what this will be. We'll be getting out and actually resurfacing that runway. A lot of work involved in it. Obviously, we need to keep that primary runway open as much as possible and not close it. So it will take a lot of work, and that's why we're spending the time now to design it and get it in right. We also need to replace the terminal roof, which is the flat parts of the roof that is original to the airport, 1980s vintage. And then we've got an explosive detection relocation baggage system reconfiguration. And the next one is also kind of tied into it, security checkpoint relocation. Both of these are projects that are in the master plan. They're a little different than what we were originally thinking in the master plan, but these will use it within our existing footprint. Improve the flow so that the checkpoint can be moved out of what is now gate 1. Open up that throat, which is really a choke point for us when we get high loads going out there in the morning. The checkpoint was designed basically for the terminal was built pre-9/11, so it leaves a little bit to be desired anyway when it comes to some of that stuff. But the checkpoint basically at max capacity with full staff can put about 175 people an hour through it. There are times in the day now where we've got close to 400 seats. So we need to try to open that up and give the TSA a little more room to work there, as well as make a better experience for the passengers. And then the last one on the capital projects is thermoplastic hold bars and surface paint. That's just run-of-the-mill maintenance that we have to do out there. As you see, if you travel around the airport, Eddie, you see a lot of signs are on the pavement itself for aircraft. What this does is thermoplastic is basically like a big vinyl sign that you put on the runway and then melt it into it instead of having to paint it every few years. So it really actually saves us money in the long run when it comes to maintenance and costs. And then everything else that is in there is kind of run-of-the-mill maintenance. But formal approval of the operating budget and the capital expenditures by resolution of each of our participating subdivisions is certainly appreciated. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mike. Do any board members have any questions or comments?
Mike, since you're not asking us for money, this is an easy meeting.
Well, if you want to donate, we'll take it.
You didn't have to bring your attorney. I mean, he's charging you per hour. So, with all the work you're doing on the new parking lot, why wouldn't you see that as significantly impacting revenues, or do you think that work will be done soon enough in the following year that you won't have an adverse impact?
I sincerely wish that parking lot had been redone before I got here. Maybe back during the pandemic when it was empty. But we picked a time of the year when it is typically our lightest, and we're working through it. We should have enough parking spaces all the way through all phases. When we get into kind of the middle of this summer, we're going to be a little tight when they move into what I'll call the main part of the long-term parking lot. But we've got it mapped out. If we have to, we can go to a remote lot and do some busing, but we don't anticipate having to do that. Our revenues so far actually are up because the traffic's up. So even though we have discounted the economy lot across the street, and we're trying to push as many people that way as we can so we don't have to relocate cars, do any of that type of stuff, it actually is doing very well revenue-wise. And as we get into the third phase where we've got our, what I consider our short-term lot or our preferred parking product open back up, that'll again boost our revenues. And we're going to try to price those two products, the long-term and the short-term, if you will, so that they're a little closer together and maybe get a few people that would prefer to park up closer to the building and try to encourage people to do that. And then if you're really concerned about if you're going to be gone a long time, you're concerned about really the bottom end and want to keep it cheap, we're at $8 across the street in the economy lot. So we'll try to work it both ways and just manage that piece because it is our single biggest piece of revenue, and that's how we hold down our costs there for the airlines to operate. So we're watching it very closely.
Talk a little bit about how difficult was it to transition away from the pandemic dollars? I mean, that was a big chunk of revenues. How hard was that transition?
When you look at, it was probably a little harder on David than it was for me, but you know, when you've been counting on that much revenue coming in that was offsetting our costs basically, it's always going to be a challenge. But what we did was we actually used the pandemic money to relieve the airlines of some of the rent that they have to pay us, which is the baggage claim area, the baggage makeup area. We put both of those, we basically put them at rest for 4 years to help the airlines get over the hump and continue to stay profitable as they operate here. So from our standpoint, we've really been taking in a lot of that revenue and putting it right back in to replace airline costs, which will make it, now that we've brought that, since we've expired that, we've now kicked those rent charges back into the airlines. But from a net, at the end of the day with the airport, we'll be pretty close to where we were before.
And final question, talk a little bit about master plan and where are you with FAA with future expansion?
So the master plan is it's an interesting process. And if you've never gone through one, I encourage you not to. It's a multiple submission type process that we go through. It's all dictated by a process that the FAA puts forward. But it's both a physical and a funding planning tool is what it really is. And you're looking at what might happen with the airport over the next 20 years. What are the projections based on DOT's projections for passenger employments, operations, all those kind of things. And then we've got about a dozen different pieces of the master plan that get submitted at various times to the FAA. We have submitted what is considered working paper 4 out of about a dozen or so that end up going in. And really in my world, there's just really 5 working papers. Because once we send in 5, all the rest is kind of noise that goes in with it. It's all smaller stuff. But working paper 4, which is the requirements for the airport, the only thing we've got right now, and the reason we haven't resubmitted and sent working paper 5 and the revised ALP, is one of their comments is their office does not agree with the need for an extension of the runway in the next 20 years. The upside of that is they did agree to leave it in there as a future enhancement, maybe for the next master plan. All that we believe is pretty much tied to the funding questions. So we are going through right now and making sure that we have all of our arguments in line to say why we believe we do need a runway extension for the safety area and for the growth of the region, to meet the growth of the region. So we're working through that now. We anticipate here within probably the next month submitting the final pieces. But really what you want to do is try to get that into the FAA, reach a mutual agreement before you ever send that revised airport land use plan, because once you do that, you're kind of on record, and you want to make sure you're able to fund it and do what you actually put on there. So even though we've started a couple of projects with the terminal already, we're designing them now. Some of the bigger projects like the runway is going to take a little bit longer.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Radford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, I read the budget and saw that, what Mr. Mahoney said, that $5 million bogey that you won't have, and to still be in the black is remarkable. Just a few logistic things. I have flown out and used that economy lot. It's very easy to park over there and then walk straight across. It's really convenient, and you get some good exercise.
That's true.
I appreciate that. Is there any plans, the big center walkway, is there any plans to extend that any further in either direction?
So we actually, in the original version of that parking lot renovation project, we actually had the extensions of the center walkway and also some spines that come off to kind of reach the furthest parts of that parking lot. And quite frankly, I ended up on the editing room floor because of cost.
Okay.
When we got around to trying to finance it, it just became too expensive to do some of that. It's still in the plan, but it's not in the immediate reconstruction that we're doing.
Okay, all right. And then one other question. So when I go around to these smaller airports, smaller than what we have in Roanoke, they seem to have their TSA baggage check behind the airline counter. Is there any future in doing the TSA baggage check?
Absolutely. That is one of the projects that's in design right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a two-part project. One is the checkpoint upstairs, and the second one is the baggage makeup and the baggage screening. Those are big explosion detection devices, getting them behind the scenes. That's going to require relocating some of the airline space that's back there, basically building a new baggage sortation area, which is where the bags go after they've been screened for the airline to get them ready to go on the airplanes. That's the second part of the phase. This whole project is probably going to be in the neighborhood of $50–60 million. So we're going to be doing it in phases.
Wow.
But that the first piece is really in priority order is the checkpoint, because that's, if we get much more service, especially around our peak times, the checkpoint's what's going to fail initially.
Right.
Downstairs is not great. It's certainly not the customer experience we want to have with people having to check their bag and stuff across the building in an X-ray unit. But that's going to be in our second phase. If we find a great funding source, we'll do them both at the same time. But right now, the plan is we'll probably divide them up in two. And actually, my director of planning and engineering should be talking to the FAA about that project right now.
Very good.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Mike, I have a few, just a couple of things. I looked through here, and on one of the pages, I don't know what number it is, I think it's the third page that we were given, I noticed landing fees are down 46%. What's driving that in the proposed budget for 25 versus the budgeted revenues for 24?
So in our revenues, landing.
So the landing fees were, looks like 54,000 for 24, but you seem to have shaved it back to 29,000 in 25. Or is that a misprint?
I'm gonna turn around and ask my conservative director of finance if he.
Come on up if you want to. We can hear you better.
It's easier to ask him than it is for me to find it.
On the page I have, at the top of the page, my landing fees will be increasing 9.6% from the prior year. It'll be increasing from $984,000 budgeted last year to $1,078,000 in fiscal year 25.
I was looking at general aviation under fiscal year 25.
Okay, general aviation is a little bit different. That's all of our FBO fees and everything else, and we're being a little conservative in what we're estimating. We're actually finalizing negotiations now with Signature Flight Support. They went through the bid process. We've awarded a new contract to them and actually working on that execution. But we don't think that the revenue will be down, but we'd rather be a little safe with it than to project something we don't know about for sure yet.
Okay, thank you.
If we have time, I can actually run through a few other updates, if you don't mind.
What's that?
If you have a minute, I can run through a couple of other updates.
Sure.
Both on the FBO and otherwise. So as Signature comes in, one of the things that they've done as part of their bid is they're going to be investing almost $14 million in the airport. So almost immediately, you're going to start seeing a new hangar being built over in the general aviation area. So a lot of that $14 million investment is pretty huge. Plus, they've guaranteed us a tremendous amount of revenue over the next 25, 30 years. So we were excited to kind of get them back in and get that piece of the airport kind of ironed out. Just from a standpoint of service, the airport boarded about 342,000 passengers last year. So that was just people leaving, about the same number coming in. That is much better, much stronger than 2022, and it's actually just about where 2019 was. So even though we don't have the amount of business travel that you used to have, a lot of companies learned a lot of lessons there, and they use Zoom a little more than they do airline tickets these days. But we're just about back to that same level. So we're seeing the traffic rebound and the demand for it. And as a result, the airlines are stepping up and doing some things they haven't done in a while. Charlotte's, Americans are actually going to be up to 8 and 9 turns a day back and forth to Charlotte this summer. One of those, at least, is going to be a bigger airplane than the 50-seater. And then they've also gone to a second daily Philadelphia. So that's Philadelphia is increasing about a 50% load factor to about a 70% load factor. Mm-hmm. They're seeing it kind of be the reliever, if you will, for Charlotte. They just can't get enough seats through Charlotte to kind of do what they want to do. And we're still talking every day to them just about to look at Dallas. So we're still working that one. Delta's hanging tight with Atlanta and LaGuardia. Chicago and Washington Dulles United has actually bumped the Dulles service up 2-4 times a day this summer. So all that is additional seats, additional tickets that can be sold. It's an indication the airlines are paying attention. And then the one that a lot of people will be happy about is actually this fall. The summer stays pretty much constant, but this fall, instead of Allegiant pulling out of St. Petersburg, they're going to keep it through that August-September timeframe, and then in October, they're going to 4 St. Petersburg flights a week and 3 Sanford flights a week, Orlando flights. So they will have, Allegiant will basically have daily service this fall. So again, 2 good testaments to the traffic that's been flying in and out of here. Not going to make things like the parking lot project any easier, but it's good to see that growth coming back.
Okay. I know Mr. Radford and I, we fly ROA, and we pay a pretty premium going to the Midwest sometimes. You just have to throw out the credit card and get on the plane, but you don't have a choice now. You can go someplace else like Charlotte or D.C. So what's the leakage rate today in your mind? What's the estimate?
We actually are updating our leakage study right now in anticipation of some meetings with airlines later this month. But the last measurement was around 62% leakage. And that's a combination of a lot of things. So we get about 12% that we call it leakage to Lynchburg, but it's really, that's just people that live in the city limits of Lynchburg. We take most of the other traffic over there unless it's Charlotte bound. But that includes the Charlotte driving traffic, Washington Dulles driving traffic, Greensboro, Raleigh, Durham. So we'll never get it all back. And when you get up around the New River Valley, makes it a lot harder argument with somebody whether they want to take a nonstop or not. But the thing that we try to stress is think about the jobs you're supporting. The airport in 2017, I think 2018 was the last DOV economic impact study. The airport contributed about $490 million to the economy annually. So we know that's up from where it was, and we want to continue that. And that's the message, is when people use another airport, I totally get it. But remember, when you have a chance to fly your hometown airport, support your neighbors and their jobs, the taxes, and all that impact that comes in.
So the game plan going forward, then, since the FAA said we don't need to extend the runway, and by that I mean over 581, that's the extension they're talking about, I believe. Yep. So, but we do need to repair the runway or bring it up to some standards. Are they going to stamp that with an okay of approval going forward?
We believe most of the plan is going to work in our favor, and we're going to leave the extension in there that we just need to get it to a point where we can kind of agree with them on it. But there's a lot of things we can do to the runways to help improve it. Over the years, some things have happened here where there's some safety areas where buildings have been built, and sometimes folks have the idea that you can just kind of take the FAA and, yeah, we hear you, but we're going to do what we want to. Thankfully, we've got good neighbors, but in the past, they left a few of those things out there, and as a result, things like our minimums are at a mile versus 3/4 of a mile. Doesn't matter most days, but when you're coming in through a thick set of clouds, and the pilot's got to put that thing on the runway, makes a big difference. So we're working with the FAA also to find ways to improve the accessibility to what we have. So,
Well, I understand from Delegate Austin that the governor's on board with what needs to be done there. Will he be around in 2 years? We'll probably have another governor. In the meanwhile, you know, Senator Kane's chief of staff flew out of the airport several weeks ago after meeting with local governments in the region. And I encouraged him to come back and visit with you because he didn't seem to think there was a problem taking off and landing. So I think maybe a quick tour of the runway might be in order to get his support. And Senator Warner, he about choked on his lunch that day. We had a discussion with him and talked about the runway project.
those are two great supporters of the airport, though. We appreciate all their support.
So you're not going to retire until you get things checked off that you've got
I've
on
been
your
told
to-do
that. I
list.
think it was maybe you.
Well, anyway, thank you for coming today, and at this time, I would like to ask if there are a motion to adopt the resolution.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the board approve the Roanoke Regional Airport Commission budget for fiscal year 2024-2025.
And I'll second that. Is any discussion on any part of the motion? If not, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes, and Denver nonstop.
Working on that, too.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes.
Thank you very
Mike.
much.
Appreciate you. Moving on to item 3, resolution approving the issuance of revenue refunding bonds by the Economic Development Authority of Roanoke County, Virginia, in an aggregate amount not to exceed $60 million for the benefit of Friendship Foundation. Chair recognizes Peter Lubeck, County Attorney.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. And I would first like to recognize Mr. Joseph Hoff, who is the president and CEO of Friendship Foundation, as well as C. Michael Shannon, who is the CFO. I believe that they are here with us today, and welcome them, and we're grateful that they're here with us. And as you may recall, back in 2019, Friendship Living financed the construction of senior living facilities located in Roanoke County near Salem, with a series of bonds that were issued through the Roanoke County Economic Development Authority, and we refer to these bonds as the Series 2019 bonds. The EDA was willing to assist in the issuance of these bonds because it is able to charge what we refer to as an administrative fee. The EDA receives approximately 1/16 of 1% of the outstanding principal on the bonds that are issued. And the issuance benefited Richfield by allowing them to finance the construction at a low interest rate. And during and after the COVID-19 pandemic, Richfield encountered some financial difficulties and entered into forbearance arrangements with the Series 2019 bondholders and the bond trustee in order to avoid default proceedings. In the fall of 2023, Richfield sold the senior living facilities to Friendship Foundation, which, as you are aware, also operates senior living facilities in the Roanoke Valley. In connection with its acquisition of the facilities, Friendship assumed Richfield's 2019 obligations and continued the forbearance arrangements with the Series 2019 bondholders and the bond trustee. At the time of the acquisition, the EDA consented to Friendship's debt assumption in connection with the acquisition, as was required by the 2019 bond documents. And at this time, Friendship and the Series 2019 bondholders have agreed to various amendments to the Series 2019 bond documents. These consist of a reduction in the principal amount of the Series 2019 bonds, differing interest rates, and changes to various other financial covenants. These changes have been incorporated into an amended and restated trust indenture and an amended and restated loan agreement to which, if approved, the EDA would be a party as the conduit issuer. The various amendments together constitute a reissuance of the Series 2019 bonds for tax purposes. The amended transaction is treated as a new obligation and must comply with the various Internal Revenue Code provisions for a new transaction. Three of those are, in particular, are important. They include a public hearing before the Economic Development Authority, the EDA approval, and additional approval from you, the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors. At the EDA's recent meeting on April 18th of 2024, the EDA held the required public hearing and thereafter approved the amended and restated trust indenture and loan agreement. Neither the county nor the EDA will incur any additional expenses in connection with the proposed bond reissuance. However, the administrative fee collected by the EDA will, of course, decrease because the outstanding principal will be reduced. For example, in fiscal year 2025, the EDA would have collected approximately $56,000 and will now, under the new agreement, collect approximately $37,000 in fiscal year 2025, and each year thereafter, as the principal decreases, a smaller amount will be received. However, under the given circumstances, including the consent of the bondholders, the EDA approved the reissuance. Additionally, if the EDA had not approved the reissuance, Friendship could have sought refinancing through another avenue, and the EDA would not have received any continuing benefit. At this time, it is staff's recommendation that the board approve the resolution that has been included in your packet. Throughout this very complicated transaction, I've had the pleasure of working with some very talented attorneys. The bond counsel for Friendship was the attorneys with Kaufman and Knowles, and the EDA was very capably represented by Jeremy Carroll and Michael Lockaby, the two of our friends and local attorneys. But at this time, I would be happy to answer questions that you might have.
Any questions, Mr. Lubeck? There being no questions, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion to adopt the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Ms. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lubeck. Item E, first reading of ordinances. Number one, ordinance to accept and allocate funds in the amount of $400,133 from the Virginia Department of Fire Program Aid to Localities Funds. Chair recognizes Travis Griffith, Chief of Fire and Rescue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Code of Virginia provides for the collection of an annual levy from the insurance industry that is collected by the State Corporation Commission each year and transferred into the Virginia Department of Fire Programs. This fund is used to provide an annual population-based allocation to qualifying jurisdictions within the Commonwealth of Virginia. These funds may only be used for fire service purposes and must fall into categories such as equipment or training as specified by the Virginia Department of Fire Programs. Currently, the grant awards this year for Roanoke County total $400,133, and the best part about this is there's no match. There never has been, as long as this program's been around. And so at this time, staff recommends approval of the first reading and scheduling a second reading for May 14th.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the reading of the ordinance and to schedule a second reading for May 14th, 2024?
So move. I make the motion.
And I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Ms. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Ms. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Item F, public hearing and adoption of resolution. Item 1, public hearing for citizen comments on the proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 operating budget and the proposed fiscal year 25 through 2034 capital improvement program. Welcome, Steve Elliott, Budget Administrator.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This public hearing is to receive comments on the proposed fiscal year 2024 to 2025 operating budget and the fiscal year 2025 through 2034 capital improvement program. This is a requirement of state code and was advertised in the Roanoke Times on Sunday, April 14th. Staff recommends conducting the public hearing to receive citizen comments on the proposed budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Do we have any speakers? Are there anyone in the audience want to speak to this topic? That being said, we'll open and close the public hearing. Thank you very much, Steve. Item 2, public hearing and resolution approving the secondary 6-year improvement plan for years 25 through 2030, and the construction priority list and estimated allocations for fiscal year 2025. Megan Cronice, Assistant Director of Planning. Megan?
Thank you very much. Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I come to speak with you every year about the secondary six-year program. So here we are again. This is for fiscal year 2025 through 2030. This is, again, an annual adoption process. The county receives about $350,000 a year for projects on secondary roads, which are route number 600 and higher. There are two different funds that we receive funding for. There's the telefees, which are generated from telecommunications providers using VDOT's right-of-way, and district grant unpaid funds for eligible VDOT maintained unpaved roads to be paved. So this year we have $337,364,000 allocated for fiscal year 2025 to continue to fund Webb Road paving, Franklin Street improvements, Bergen Blick Lane paving, and countywide traffic engineering and survey services. There is about $364,000 reserved in an unallocated telefee funds account to leverage for future applications, to fund existing deficits, or to fund new projects. So we can consider that next year. Good news, Ivory Ridge Road has been completed. This is a VDOT maintained unpaved road off of Route 221, which was paved with a cul-de-sac constructed, and the total project funding was $200,000. You can see the before and after photos. We've also talked about Fallow Water Lane Extension, which is now called Ridgetop Road, for several years. This is a project to upgrade the existing private road to public road standards and to connect to Chevy Road. You can see the map outlined in red where that road is located. The total project funding is about $4.3 million, and this is secondary plan funding as well as revenue sharing funding. And replacement railings were installed within the last month to complete the project, so we are now in project closeout. Dry Hollow Road, this project's also been around for several years. This is a project to improve safety by widening the roadway under the railroad bridge near the intersection with West River Road. VDOT has contracted with AECOM within the last year to analyze a concept to reinforce the roadway against the creek, to slightly widen the road, and to add traffic signals to control traffic in this location. The total project funding on the project today is $4.6 million of secondary funds and revenue sharing. We also submitted an application that we talked about last year, you supported in 2023, for revenue sharing funding to the tune of $2.7 million. This is half VDOT, half county funding. This amount is included in the draft six-year improvement program that was released last Tuesday by the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and we anticipate that will be finalized in June. Starkey Road, Buck Mountain Road intersection improvements. This project, as you can see from the lovely image, thanks to RVTV, is nearly complete. This is a project to convert the existing T intersection to a roundabout, and the total project funding is about $5.8 million. There's 4 different sources on this project, including about $13,000 in secondary funding. We also have a surface transportation block grant funding, revenue sharing, and smart scale funding on this project. There's final lighting being installed, and then this project is essentially complete. Franklin Street is next up on the list. This is a project to improve the existing roadway with minor widening and plant mixed asphalt. We have $350,000 allocated for this project in future fiscal years, with construction anticipated in the latter part of fiscal year 2025. Timberview Road is after that. Improvements requested by residents may include pavement and shoulder widening at critical locations, lengthening certain drainage culverts, and spot improvements. We have $500,000 allocated to this project in future fiscal years, and construction is anticipated in fiscal year 2028. Webb Road is a VDOT maintained unpaved road off of Route 220. This project funding is $241,000, and construction is anticipated later this summer to pave this section of Webb Road. Bergen Blick Lane is our next unpaved road project. This is the VDOT maintained unpaved road off of Old Mill Road in the Back Creek area to be paved with a cul-de-sac, and the total project funding is $200,000. We anticipate construction in fiscal year 2027. Boone's Chapel Road is our newest unpaved road project. We added this last year. This would be paved with a cul-de-sac. There's $400,000 allocated over future fiscal years, and construction is anticipated in fiscal year 2030. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
No questions. It's just, to me, it's always depressing to see how expensive road projects are.
I agree.
Well, I'll add some color to that comment. But the first slide you pulled up there showed, what do we got, $350,000 for teleconferencing?
And unpaved road combined.
Yeah. On the TPO, we had a meeting on the legislative agenda concerning, and it was the first year we did it, those very same fees. That comes from a pot of money that was based on a multiplier in 2001 of $425 a mile. And today's 2024, and that multiplier has never been escalated. And using the inflation calculator, it should go to like 743, and then people might get a little bit more money, like some of our surrounding counties. They get even less than what we do, and they've got more gravel roads in Franklin County and Floyd County probably than any place else surrounding us. And the answer was that if we were to put forth an effort to get that increased, it would just take the money out of the district pot that's already, you'd just be taking money out of one pot and put it into another. So, it is what it is. There's plenty of examples where legislatures have put money into a budget with a multiplier and haven't gone back and tied it to an escalation fee at all. It's just like $25 million, that's what you get every year. And that's divided across all of the counties of the Commonwealth based upon the miles of unpaved road that you have in each county. So not a lot of money, and you have to kind of bank it so you can get enough money to do a project. And so we're much better off than many of our neighbors. And maybe one day someone will try to fix that, where it doesn't penalize us by taking money out of the district pot. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak to this today? Anyone in the audience that wants to speak that didn't sign up? Okay, we'll open the public hearing and then close the public hearing. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the board approve the resolution, secondary road 6-year improvement plan for fiscal years 2025 through 2030, and also the construction priority list and estimated allocations for fiscal year 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Radford. Any discussion on those motions? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Thank you, Megan. Yes. Item G, appointments. Do any board members have an appointment that has not been given to the clerk and included in the board report for agenda item G? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the appointment set forth in the board report for item G, which is Randall Hancock, whose term expires June 30th, 2028, for the Western Virginia Water Authority, citizen appointment? Any motion on that?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
Is there discussion on the motion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes, thank you. Item H, consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by one resolution in the form or forms listed below. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Any board member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for discussion? There being none, is there a motion to adopt all matters on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes. Item I, citizens' comments and communications. Do we have anyone signed up to speak on it? Anyone in the audience have a desire to speak? There being none, we'll move on to item J, reports. Is there a motion to receive and file the reports that have been included with the item under item J?
Mr. Chair, I make that motion to receive and file the reports.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes. Item K, work session. Review the new electronic performance review system. In the work session, Elijah G. Daly, Director of Human Resources, will share that with us. Momentarily, the board will recess to the third floor for the work session. However, before doing so, I'd like to move that the board go into closed session upon the completion of the work session. Item L, closed meeting pursuant to the Code of Virginia. I move to go into closed session pursuant to the Code of Virginia Section 2.2-3711, subparagraph A, Part 3 of the Code of Virginia, to discuss or consider the acquisition of real property in the Cave Spring District for a public purpose, where the discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position and negotiating strategy of the public body. And Section 2.2-3711, subparagraph A, Part 5 of the Code of Virginia, for discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. Specifically, the board will discuss potential business location or expansion in the Cave Spring and Catawba magisterial districts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Radford?
Yes.
Mrs. Hooker?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes.
Mr. North?
Yes. The board will now recess to the third floor for the work session. Following the work session, the board will enter into closed session. The board will now recess to the third floor for the work session.